I've been in the marketing space since about 2010. Then in 2015 came over to Amazon and launched my skincare brand, which we grew to.
I'm delighted to be joined by Klein. John's been a private label seller in the past, skincare brand, and has since moved into being more kind of consultancy and helping out other brands achieve the same successes.
In the past 5 years, kind of moved over to the consultancy side, helping other brands and manufacturers to.
What kind of experience had you had in this kind of world? Or was it you were just kind of walking into it and you were just kind of testing and learning as you went?
My experience launching the skincare brand back in 2015, we tried it first to.
Welcome back to the next episode of the Seller's Journey podcast with me, Ant Willis. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Klein. John's been a private label seller in the past. He's built up a 7-figure brand, a skincare brand, and has since moved into being more kind of consultancy and helping out other brands achieve the same successes. Welcome along, John. It's great to have you on.
Great to be here, Ant. Thanks for having me on. Excited for our conversation.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. I really enjoy these conversations, that the people that have kind of been there and done it. I think that there's a lot to kind of glean from it. Hopefully it'll be of lots of use to everybody that listens. Do you want to just start by giving us a bit of an overview of yourself and your career and what's kind of led you to where you are now?
Yeah, I've been in the marketing space since about 2010, started off on the affiliate side. Then in 2015 came over to Amazon and launched my skincare brand, which we grew to 7 figures pretty rapidly. And I'm still running that skincare brand today. In the past 5 years, kind of moved over to the consultancy side, helping other brands and manufacturers to grow predictably on Amazon. And over the past couple years, it have expanded to a full services agency as well as exclusive reselling operation.
Awesome. So when you kind of first started in this game, when you first created skincare brand, what kind of experience had you had in this kind of world? Or was it you were just kind of walking into it and you were just kind of testing and learning as you went?
Yeah, my experience launching the skincare brand back in 2015, we tried it first to run Google ads and Facebook ads at the time. Nothing was really cracking for us until we found Amazon. And once we kind of came onto Amazon, it was almost immediately success. I mean, this was really the golden era of Amazon around 2015. The first full year that we sold, we did $500,000. Second full year, we were doing $1 million. And quite frankly, it was a lot easier. You just had to do a good job of having a reasonably converting and reasonably keyword optimized listing, run some pay-per-click, and that was like basically it. Get some reviews, which at the time you can purchase, or all sorts of things that were going on at the time. But now obviously the game has evolved a lot and just gotten a lot more challenging since then.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like my Amazon journey probably started around the same sort of time as yours, to be fair. I joined a brand after spending years in the banking industry, joined a consumer electronics brand. And yeah, we just kind of learnt from the MD and kind of built from there. And there is a huge change, isn't there, in terms of the way that you would set things up now versus what you did back then. Is that because of the amount of people now that are selling on the platform, or do you just think that's the kind of natural evolution of that kind of platform?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think the competition has definitely expanded over time. So when I first got on with my skincare brand, a lot of the other big brands weren't even on the platform yet. So we certainly had a leg up. And then for a while, we had an advantage over them in terms of review count. And then Amazon sort of democratized the review process quite a bit. That was one change. The other evolution that of course has happened over the past 5+ years has been the onslaught of the Chinese sellers, which is affecting a lot of different niches, and it's become really, really difficult to compete with them, especially when very often they are the manufacturer themselves. So it's just become very challenging, and then with AI kind of bridging that gap between the marketing advantage that we used to have. So I think all those things are significant, but then also the platform has evolved a lot in terms of various things that can trip you up. So, for instance, like I said, way back then you used to be able to get reviews in various nefarious ways. Now you need to be really careful about those type of things. Amazon will change policies, as they have recently, about the way you construct your listings, and all of a sudden, if you don't keep up with what they want in their style guides, you can be penalized in your rankings because you haven't kept up with what they want. There are various other things you have to look out for, the categories getting misaligned and detail pages breaking. So I think it's a little more of a game of dealing with a lot of different issues that crop up now. Haven't even gotten into the FBA side of like dealing with the capacity limits. I know we're going to talk about Q4 later, so we'll probably get into that. But I think it's become more of a game of, in addition to doing a good job of marketing your product, you have to avoid all these landmines. You have to be really sound in terms of your operations. And I think that's where a lot of brands are struggling today, is just having all the pieces necessary to do those things well.
Yeah, I agree. And how has compliance changed? Because I mean, skincare now is notoriously a little bit more tricky from a compliance perspective than perhaps kitchenware or something along those lines might be. Has that evolved or always same even back then?
No, it's evolved quite a bit. I mean, skincare supplements, on the skincare side, we have MOCRA to deal with, and they're just being a lot more stringent in terms of the various documentation and requirements you have to submit. On the supplement side, you have all these sorts of requirements for testing with Amazon specific vendors that are getting more stringent. So yeah, certainly Amazon has evolved on the compliance side, and we see a lot more page takedowns in general than we did in the past, for sure.
Yeah, they tend to act first, don't they? And then ask you for the information once you don't have a listing, which can be pretty quick if you've got a small category.
Right, or you have to figure it out for yourself and they don't send you anything, so yeah.
Yeah, usually more likely the case as well, right? So I'm really kind of interested to understand, when you first started this brand, just kind of reflecting on my journey, it was very much, or you could certainly get away with it being like a bit of a one-man band. You kind of did all of the keyword research yourself, you collated everything, you put everything together, created the titles, the bullet points. You may have worked with a graphic designer to get some images done, but there was never really the focus on those that there is now. If we were to start a brand again, and maybe not a skincare brand because it's an extremely tricky market right now, and obviously your head start must have kind of really helped you out. If you were to kind of start again, how would you do it now? Because I'm assuming now we're in different times, and I personally think that it's really difficult to do this on your own. Like back in the days where you could literally grab a laptop and start selling stuff. Now it's a lot more tricky. There's a lot more that's involved. You need to be ahead of a lot more of the competition. What kind of stance would you have changed in that kind of setup period between then and now?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think you're absolutely spot on. Back then, when I started the first few years, I was just a solopreneur, and it was fine and well to do. I still know a few folks who do it that way, but I think it's really, really challenging. Having a little more resources now, if I were starting over again, I would either bring in a full service agency, or I would build out my own in-house team. So you have all your different areas of specialization that are needed. You need someone who's specialized in catalog management, just dealing with flat files, issues that arise. You need someone who's really skilled in listing optimization, in the keyword research, market research. You need, as you mentioned, a really solid graphic designer who's skilled with Amazon and understands conversion rate optimization and click through. You need solid logistics operations person who's going to deal with all like the FBA shipments and the reimbursements. I certainly wouldn't want to be doing all those things by myself. And then of course pay-per-click, right? I mean, it's just become so nuanced, and there's so many different ad units. These are all specializations that I think are needed if you want to build your own in-house team.
Yeah, I think like it's possible to do this on your own, but from a success perspective, like how quickly do you want to kind of ramp things up? It's almost impossible now to get something going and get it to a level where you can then start to bring people in, because there's so much competition there already. Like you've got to be fierce, and you've got to know the ins and outs of PPC, like you mentioned, the logistic element of it all, the graphics, like the detail that goes into the graphics at the moment is crazy. The research, the way that people shop for things, buy behaviors, all of these things need to be considered now. And it just really wasn't that competitive 10 years ago or so. It's going to be like, for a brand that's kind of starting out, what would be your kind of key piece of advice for them? Like, let's just say a small brand got a great idea and they just want to kind of get going and they want to kind of get the steps in place. How would you approach that now if you didn't have the budget to build your team out straight away?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that was extraordinarily helpful for me, and what I would advise to any new brand or solopreneur trying to do it, or even those who have a small team, is to find community, to find a mastermind. So I found MDS, Million Dollar Sellers, which has been just a tremendous network, tremendous resource for my business, and it's just been a great place to bounce ideas off other sellers and always be up to date with the newest things that are coming, right? Because it's hard to stay with everything, the best practices, and so ever evolving. So just really strongly recommend finding community, finding other sellers that you can talk to that are specifically in Amazon, and making sure sure that you're always on top of things. Or again, finding a consultant, an agency, someone who you can trust that can help kind of be like a Sherpa, like a guide for you to help you avoid some of those pitfalls that you may encounter as you get going.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, like I said, there's so much going on. And when you actually think about it, it's probably two people's full-time jobs just to keep Amazon running. And that's like not even considering sourcing product, those logistics sorted, 3PLs and all the different elements that are required. So it really has become a lot more difficult. But having said that, the fruits, once you do become successful, are a lot higher, I guess, than they would have been 10 years ago, because the much more popular platform, you've got expansion opportunity now that you probably didn't have back then, everything like that. So it's kind of evolved, made it more difficult, but at the end of the day, the rewards are going to be a lot higher than perhaps they would have been 10 years ago. We're right on the kind of cusp of the busiest periods in the e-commerce world. And I'm guessing from your perspective, especially with the skincare brand, this is a time of year where things are really going to start to ramp up. What is it that you guys would do now? Like, what is it that you're doing now to kind of prepare for it? And what are the main things that you do differently at this time of year?
Yeah, so biggest thing for Q4 is really inventory planning, which should ideally begin way earlier than now. We start to think about our Q4 inventory planning in around June, putting all the logistics in place to make sure you've got sufficient inventory. Another thing that we do is like our deal planning. We put a lot of focus into the major Amazon tentpole events. Now we have 2 Prime Days. Prime Day earlier in the year, we have Fall Prime Day, which is every year now, and then of course Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We love the PEDs. We run Prime exclusive discounts during those periods to make sure you get the Prime badge and you have the elevated conversion rate and visibility during the deal time. We do a lot to push into those deals. So like we will hit our email list, we will reach out to like our affiliates to make sure the affiliates are aware of the deal so they can push it. And then of course do a little extra push on the PPC side. What we do is we tend to go heavy on PPC during the beginning of the deals and then kind of tail off because the margins have gotten pretty slim. We like to try to give it a fast start so that the deal gains momentum and then let it kind of ride from there. So that's kind of what we do on the deal side. The other real significant challenge that's going on right now is Amazon imposing these capacity limits at FBA. Mm-hmm. So at this very moment, there's a capacity limit which came as a surprise to all of us. It wasn't announced. It was just imposed out of the blue. We all hope that it'll be alleviated within the next month or so, but we just don't know, right? Amazon was pushing AWD and all these promotions around AWD to make the shipping into AWD cost effective as compared to using your 3PL. So a lot of folks got rid of a 3PL, went with AWD, and then we found recently that Amazon changed the rules again, and now they instituted these capacity limits. Thankfully, we have had a continual 3PL, so we were able to default back to that. But I think after like seeing this for a few different years, I think you want to have a 3PL available to you as a backup in case FBA gets dicey, let's say, right? And also during COVID, these things happen. So I'd say like, yeah, the logistics is a big concern around Q4, like what's going to happen. And I think having 3PL in place, having some extra inventory without going too far, of course, you really have to do tremendous logistics and inventory planning to make your Q4 a success. Yeah. And to not go with extra product going into Q1.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's quite a lot to kind of dissect there. I think the logistics thing is the part that you finished on, and coming from a logistics background, an e-commerce logistics background, I totally understand the stresses and pressures that you feel in and around the Q4, and you're kind of in a bit of a no-win situation in a lot of circumstances because your capacities are condensed, so you can't have as much inventory as you know that you can sell, but then the time that it takes now to get stock into the facility seems to, over this period, drastically expand. So in normal circumstances, you can probably get product from your 3PL into Amazon's FBA within a week, max, maybe 10 days at worst. And, you know, we've seen it in some situations where it's taken weeks and weeks for Amazon to book stock in. And again, we're at a bit of a loss because you can't really anticipate the length of time it's going to take Amazon to book stock in. So what sort of things do you do to kind of get around that? Or do you just make make sure that you're at full capacity as much as you can be?
Yeah, good question. I mean, as soon as we see things start to book up, we just kind of get more aggressive in terms of, or I should say conservative in terms of your expected timelines, right? So, and we'll keep doing that until it eases up and we see it go the other way. Quite frankly, there's not much you can do when Amazon doesn't warn you. Sometimes you will get a warning and you need to heed their warning, but a lot of times they're just doing things very quickly and you need to react to it after it happens. One other thing that's worth mentioning is, I guess, just target days of stock. I think maybe this is a topic that's not discussed enough. Usually target for small and light products around 60 to 120 days in stock, maybe closer to like 75 to 105 being like the center of the target. Heavier things would be maybe 30 to 60 days stock or 45 to 60. And then of course like oversized just tend to do FBM. When things are getting a little more dicey, you may want to beef up your reserves. You may want to push a little towards the higher side, things like that.
Yeah, I've seen it before where people have either paid the additional stock charges, which seem to be astronomical, like as in like Amazon deliberately make it so they don't want to pay it. Or I've also seen that people actually removing their stock. They found it cheaper to remove the slower selling lines in order to kind of beef out, give themselves more capacity for other lines that are faster selling. Have you ever found yourself in that position?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, so yeah, to further the conversation, it's like on one side, after 180 days, you have the long-term storage fees, and Amazon instituted the low inventory fees at 30 days. So you kind of have to stay within that zone. But then when something like, these capacity limits are imposed out of nowhere and all of a sudden you have no room, yeah, you may find yourself like either running a promotion on some slower moving items to free up some space for your best sellers, or in a bad situation having to remove stuff, which is just awful expense to have. The other thing to really be aware of is this capacity manager that Amazon came out with, that you can bid on space the following month, and as long as you use that space, you don't get charged for it. We've been really wrapping our heads over the last couple years around this capacity manager and like how to use it. We really now try to be conservative in terms of bidding for a lot of space so that we're not jammed up and finding ourselves on the wrong end of capacity limit.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of gist I got from Amazon, was that they deliberately kept you really lean so that you'd have to go down that route of going down the capacity manager limit review. And I guess what that does is it forces you to think about what you actually need, rather than just saying, well, I want as much as I can get. You have to physically work out what you think you're going to sell, what you need to send in, where the capacity limit needs to be at any one time. Because we've seen some bizarre situations where the capacity limit drops from like just shouting numbers, but like 700 square foot down to 300 square foot from October to November, which is completely bizarre. But like you say, I do wonder whether that is deliberate, because then Amazon know that you're then going to have to really consider what your November numbers are going to be, and then you kind of go in and bid for that space rather than just kind of trying to get as much as you want.
Absolutely, yep.
The other thing that you mentioned that I'm keen to kind of just touch on a little bit, you mentioned that you work with affiliates, and I'm really interested to understand how that works as a kind of a general rule, how you kind of operate that, but also what changes as you move into Q4, and how do things, how does your kind of relationship with that affiliate change through that period?
Yeah, so there's the whole TikTok affiliate platform, as you're well aware of, I'm sure, which is a whole different animal in and of itself. If you're running TikTok, obviously affiliates are a huge part of that. So, I won't get into that since we're mostly talking about Amazon here. But mostly what we do is we use platforms like Wayward and Levanta. And these are Amazon-focused affiliate platforms. And most of the year, it's just like set it and forget it. You kind of just put your commissions in there, you put your products, affiliates pick it up, and there's not much coordination on those platforms until you get to these tentpole events, right? So Prime Day, Fall Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you can reach out to the affiliates on these platforms and let them know what deals that you're running. A couple of them have, like, they will email you, like I believe Wayward does this now, like they will email you if you're on Wayward and say, send us your deals so that we can share them. So they've sort sort of 3 years ago when we were doing this, we had to email them all directly, and now they've figured out, hey, let's just create a sheet that we could share with the affiliates so that they have timely promotion and can basically post and do their promotions in accordance with your deals. So that's pretty much what we'll do. And then, like I said, we'll hit our email list just to kind of get some extra boost there.
Okay. You don't have a lot to do with actually picking, selecting, accepting affiliates. That's all done through a platform, is it?
Yeah, I highly recommend Wayward. Levanta is a number 2. They really do a lot of this for you. It's really like set it and forget it. You just have to, like I said, communicate your deals to them. On the TikTok side, it's much more involved. Those are like a lot of one-on-one relationships if you're doing that stuff, and it's questionable whether they would even want to promote an Amazon deal. The Wayward and Levanta are pretty easy to work with.
Interesting. I've always been quite interested in, never really kind of quite got to the bottom of getting involved in too much. But what would you say, like, is it a big percentage of sales that come through affiliates, or is
No, it's incremental. I would say affiliate on Amazon, no more than 3 to 5% of our sales, something like that. Now that's through these platforms where we're giving an enhanced bonus. Of course, Amazon has its original Amazon Associates program in which all sorts of affiliates may be driving to your products, but there's not much you can do to affect that one way or another. On these platforms, essentially what you're doing is attaching an additional bounty to that commission that they would make so that they have more incentive to promote your product over another product.
That's really interesting. I'd like to kind of find out more about myself, to be honest, because I can definitely see the value in it, especially with like TikTok and the way that that's kind of evolving. You can definitely see Amazon potentially kind of mirroring something like that in a way. It's been something that I've wanted to kind of look into for a little while, but just haven't quite kind of got there yet.
Oh, and thanks for mentioning that. I neglect to mention Amazon Creator Connections. That's the other one that's just easy and repeatable. It's often you don't get the highest quality affiliates, although sometimes you'll run a campaign and some big publisher will join and you'll sell a lot more than you think. And it is product specific, but Amazon Creator Connections is another, I would say, set it and forget it. Or more accurately, you just kind of rerun the same campaign like every 2 months with the same things, and it's like very easy. Amazon affiliate platform is it's in Seller Central, Creator Connections.
Yeah, got it. So yeah, that's really cool. So some really great tips there for Q4. Really appreciate you sharing those. It's been amazing. Just to kind of finish up, I think I'd be really keen to understand, as we said at the, you're a guy that's got the experience and you've kind of been there, done it. You've created the brand, you've been successful with the brand, and now you're helping other brands. What is it that would kind of set you apart from, say, anybody else that's kind of in this space and wanting to kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of it just comes down to experience and being battle tested. When you're doing consulting or in the agency space, you see a lot of different niches, and each niche behaves a little bit differently. So you have to have a lot of experience and specifically failures across these niches and see what kind of the nuances are. Like some are very browse heavy, some are very conversion heavy. So I think just understanding how the different niches behave is really important. Like we were discussing before, it's really important just to have all these pieces of a team. I think there's so many brands, like even large corporations, that are hiring a service provider or an agency that does only PPC, right? And they think that that's what's going to get them there. And kind of the story in the industry is, hey, if you want to rank better, just do more PPC, get more aggressive on PPC. When meanwhile, it's very often the opposite. If you go too aggressively on PPC, you can really harm your organic sales and harm your profitability quite a bit. Whereas if you examine some of those structural elements like we discussed of the listing optimization, making sure there's no ranking suppressions on your page, nothing that's causing issues in the back end, nothing that's causing issues with the category. And just if you examine some of those issues, you can just create a much more well-oiled machine. Another thing that I think even in 2025, a lot of big brands still don't really understand their true profitability on Amazon. There are these wonderful third-party softwares like we use Sellerize or there's Seller Board, in which you could really understand your SKU by SKU economic. And that's really important. So many brands that we help, we will start by just analyzing their portfolio to find that there are certain products that are losing money. So it's time to either raise your prices or abandon those products, right? Or you may find that if you look at the inventory aging report, that they have inventory that's sitting on Amazon for 9 months now, and they're getting charged long-term storage fees for that, so they need to be a little more careful. So I think it's a lot of little things, and it doesn't really really come naturally. It's all just based on having experience. So find someone, find the community, find a partner who's a really strong operator on Amazon and kind of knows these different things in order to kind of shorten your learning curve in the pain, because it's just become so nuanced and so multifaceted, let's say.
Yeah, that's superb advice. And I totally agree. The 2 points you made there, the vanity metric, as I call it, which is the kind of revenue, and understanding, is that revenue profitable? Because if it's not, then you need to strip away some of that to become more profitable. And obviously that's going to set you up for success. The other point that you made, which I think is brilliant, is the PPC point, because PPC's become such a buzzword, hasn't it, in the industry? And I think what that's done is it's put a lot of focus onto PPC as a tool. And obviously now the majority, well, all agencies, their own kind of PPC specialists. Most brands that have an in-house team will have their own PPC specialists. Something that I've always kind of been a big advocate of is the organic element of it, because what is the point in driving traffic to a page that doesn't convert? What's the point in driving traffic to a page that doesn't look great and isn't explaining the features and the benefits of the product? So yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think that's really important. Get the organic element in a really good place. PPC is great because it's driving traffic to your page that wouldn't necessarily have seen your page before, and it's obviously really measurable, so you can really kind of tweak and drill down and get it to a good place. But conversion is so important. What driving traffic to a page that doesn't convert is going to affect your position in the sales rankings. Everything else kind of falls out around it. So for me, as you mentioned, not forgetting that organic element is really vital.
100% agree.
Yeah, John, it's been really great chatting to you. I'm really conscious of time, and I know you're a super busy guy, so I don't want to take too much of your time. Is there a way that people can get hold of you, and how can people get in touch if they want to?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or our website, onlinebrandgrowth.com.
Perfect. John, it's been amazing chatting to you, and yeah, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and yeah, I hope to catch up with you again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Ann, for having me on. This has been awesome. Really enjoyed the conversation.